Step into the darkness with witness shadows. Every shadow has a witness, and every witness has a story they've been too afraid to tell. Welcome to Witness Shadows, your ultimate destination for true horror stories and disturbing stories that linger long after the screen goes black. Whether you're looking for scary stories to sleep to, or chilling stalking stories that make you double-check your locks, our collection of true stories is curated to haunt your subconscious. I left the house, but something followed me that didn't need doors. When I first moved to Blackfen, I honestly thought the village was the sort of place people exaggerated on purpose. You know the kind of thing. One person says the lane floods every winter, someone else says the woods make dogs go strange, and before long, every old stone cottage has a story attached to it. That was the mood the first time I drove in. Everything looked too still. The sort of stillness you only get in little places where no one's in a rush and everyone notices a car they don't recognize. It was late October, just after 6, already nearly dark, and rain was drifting across the windscreen in those thin slanting lines that make the road look farther away than it is. I remember thinking the whole village looked as if it had been left outside too long. Wet grit on the pavements, dim yellow lights behind curtains, a boarded chapel at the crossroads, and beyond the last row of cottages, the black line of the woods. The cottage I'd rented was called Briar House on the paperwork, though that made it sound grander than it was. It wasn't a house so much as a squat old keeper's place, half sunk into the hillside at the end of Blackfen Lane, with a leaning chimney and one downstairs window that looked as if someone had tried to force it open years ago and never quite fixed it properly. The landlord, Martin Hales, had met me there with the keys and done the quickest handover I've ever had in my life. He was one of those men who spoke like every sentence was already halfway out the door before you heard the start of it. Mid-50s maybe, wax jacket, muddy boots, skin red from weather and drink. He showed me the fuse box, pointed at the boiler, laughed once without smiling and said, "If the lights trip, give them a minute. They've got a habit of sorting themselves." Then he handed me the keys and started backing away before I'd even finished asking where the nearest shop was. I should say now that I wasn't frightened of moving there. Not at all. If anything, I wanted the isolation. After Leeds, after the noise and the neighbors and the endless feeling of people being on the other side of every wall, Blackfen sounded perfect. I'd taken a remote cataloging job with the county archive, most of it digital, and the cottage was cheap enough that I could finally breathe a bit. That was the word I kept using, breathe. As if silence and rain in a long lane with no one on it were exactly what I needed. Looking back, I think that's the first mistake people make in stories like this. They tell themselves solitude is the same as peace. It isn't, not always. Inside, the place smelled of cold plaster, old wood smoke, and something faintly sour underneath, like damp trapped in walls that had never fully dried. Not disgusting, just old, tired. The kitchen floor sloped so slightly you only noticed it if you stood still. There was a little sitting room with a coal grate that had been bricked up, a narrow staircase that complained under your weight, and a bedroom at the back overlooking the garden, and beyond that, the trees. The whole place felt as though it had been waiting for somebody to come and use it again. Not welcoming exactly, just watchful. Even then, I nearly laughed at myself for thinking that. I put the kettle on, unpacked a box of plates, told myself I was being dramatic because of the weather. But the odd thing started before I'd properly settled in. I'd been there less than an hour when I went to bring the rest of my bags in from the car and found the back gate open. Now, that doesn't sound like much. It really doesn't. A wooden gate at the edge of an overgrown garden, hanging slightly crooked on one hinge. It could have drifted in the wind. Martin could have left it that way. I remember standing with one hand on a cardboard box full of books, staring at it and thinking, did I notice that before? And the answer was I didn't know. That was the annoying part. I couldn't be sure. The rain had eased to a fine mist, and the garden beyond the path was all nettles, weeds, and one dead apple tree with branches like bent fingers. The gate led to a narrow cut-through that disappeared beside the hedge and then towards the woodland edge. I walked over and pushed it shut. It gave a soft, swollen creak and resisted right at the end, as if the ground had shifted beneath it. I had to shoulder it to make it latch. There was mud on the inside edge of it. Fresh mud. I saw that and paused, but again, there was an explanation ready to hand. Martin had been round the side of the property. I'd carried things through there. My own boots were wet. It was the easiest thing in the world to explain away. So I did. I carried my last 2 boxes inside, locked the back door, and told myself to stop looking for atmosphere in every stupid little detail. But I noticed something else later when the rain started properly and the windows began to rattle in their frames. At about 7:30, I decided to walk up to the village shop before it shut. I needed milk, bin bags, and one of those cheap torches you buy when you're not sure the electrics in a place can be trusted. The lane was darker than I expected. Not city dark, where there's still orange light everywhere. Real dark. Hedge dark. Wet tarmac dark. The kind where your own footsteps sound too loud. I remember passing 2 cottages with lit windows and seeing people inside eating their dinners and getting this weird childish urge to knock and ask if the place I'd rented was as odd as it felt. Obviously, I didn't. I kept walking until I reached the little shop on the corner by the postbox. The woman behind the counter was probably in her 60s, thin, gray fringe, cardigan buttoned all the way up, despite the heat inside. She looked at me for half a second too long before asking if I was the new one down Briarway, not new to the village, not even new in the cottage. The new one. I laughed and said yes, just moved in. She nodded in a way I didn't like at all, then rang up my things without another word. It should have ended there. Awkward village shop encounter, nothing more. But when I picked up the torch from the counter, she said, very quietly, "You'll want to keep that charged." I smiled, waiting for the obvious follow-up. Something jokey about country power cuts. Something normal. She didn't say anything else. She just looked past me, over my shoulder towards the dark window behind the till. I turned automatically, expecting to see someone outside. There was no one there. Just rain slicking down the glass and my own reflection, pale and slightly warped. "Does the power go often?" I asked, trying to make it light. She looked back at me then, but she didn't answer the question. She said, "Best keep your curtains shut after dark, love," and started rearranging the cigarette packets as if the conversation was over. I wish I could tell you I left then, got in my car, found a hotel, listened to the little alarm in the back of my mind, and did the sensible thing. But then everything seemed fine, like nothing would happen. That's how it always works, isn't it? The warning arrives in such a small, embarrassing form that you feel silly taking it seriously. So I walked back down the lane with my shopping bag knocking against my leg, half smiling at myself for getting spooked by an old woman with a village superstition and a dramatic delivery. By the time I got back to the cottage, the weather had turned. The rain was heavier, the sort that comes in sheets and makes even nearby things look hidden. I let myself in, bolted the front door, checked the back without really meaning to, and stood for a moment in the kitchen listening to the house settle around me. There were ordinary sounds, water in the pipes, wind slipping under the eaves, a clock I hadn't noticed before ticking somewhere downstairs. I made tea, I unpacked my bedding, I put a podcast on while I folded clothes just to fill the quiet a bit. For an hour or so I was almost comfortable. Then the lights flickered, once, twice, and went out. The silence after that was instant and thick. No fridge hum, no low electrical buzz. Just the rain and the wind and the tiny click of the podcast dying in the dark. I swore under my breath and stood still, waiting for my eyes to adjust. The cottage changed completely without light. The rooms felt smaller, but the shadows felt deeper, if that makes any sense. As though the darkness in there belonged to the place more than the furniture did. I found the torch in my shopping bag and switched it on. The beam was weak and blue-white, almost useless at the edges, but it was enough to get me to the kitchen. I checked the fuse box exactly where Martin had shown me. Nothing obvious, nothing tripped. I remembered what he'd said, give them a minute, so I stood there with the torch under my chin like an idiot and listened to the rain battering the back door. That was when I noticed the footprints. They were on the stone step just outside the small square window in the back door. Muddy, narrow, sharply defined in the spill of torchlight. Not mine. I know people always say that after the fact, as if they were instantly certain, but I was. My boots had a broad tread with a broken corner on the left heel. I'd seen the marks I'd made earlier on the flagstones by the front. These were different, longer, cleaner somehow, as if whoever made them had stepped carefully. There were 3 I could see clearly, leading up to the door from the garden path. None leading away. I just stood there staring at them, trying to think of an explanation that would keep the world normal. Martin, a delivery driver from before I arrived, a neighbor coming to call. But what neighbor comes right up to a stranger's back door in the rain and then leaves no returning prints at all? I unlocked the back door before I'd fully decided to do it. That was nerves more than bravery. Some stupid part of me wanted the evidence to become less frightening if I looked at it properly. The wind pushed hard as I opened it, and cold rain needled straight into the kitchen. I swept the torch over the garden, the path, the hedge, the gate. The gate was open again, not wide, just enough that I could see the black cut of the path beyond it, leading towards the trees. I said hello, out loud, and even to my own ears I sounded ridiculous. No answer. Only the rain and the leaves thrashing somewhere farther back. I stepped onto the threshold but didn't go fully outside. I don't know why. I think some instinct in me had quietly taken over by then. The sort of instinct that doesn't explain itself. It just tightens every muscle and says not one step more. The torch beam touched the gate and caught on something pale tied to the top rail. At first, I thought it was a scrap of plastic caught in the wind. Then I realized it was a strip of white fabric, neat, narrow, wet and twisting gently in the rain. I moved the torch a little higher and saw it had been knotted there deliberately, not by weather, not by chance, by somebody wanting it seen. What I didn't expect was how childish that made me feel. Not brave, not rational, not angry, just horribly, instantly young. The way you feel when you know someone is nearby and hiding, and you don't know if they're about to laugh or run or rush you. I backed inside and shut the door so fast the glass shuddered in its frame. Then I locked it, checked it again, and pulled the kitchen table across the flagstones just enough to brace against it without admitting to myself that that was what I was doing. After that, I told myself I was overreacting. Honestly, I did. I made tea again because the first mug had gone cold. I sat at the kitchen table with the torch beside me, waiting for the lights to come back, and tried to think through every reasonable possibility. Some kids from the village, a prank, someone taking a shortcut through the garden, some odd local custom I hadn't been told about, but none of it sat right. Mostly because of the timing. I'd only just arrived. I hadn't met anyone. No one should have had any reason to come right to the back of the property, not in weather like that, not without knocking, not without announcing themselves. The lights came back on at 9:15, just like that, a hum from the fridge, the bulb above the sink blooming yellow, the kettle clicking as if nothing had happened. I actually laughed then, quietly, out of relief more than anything else. I even went upstairs afterwards and started making the bed, thinking that maybe I'd ring Martin in the morning and mention the gate latch being loose, but that was probably it. That was probably all it was. Then I looked out of the bedroom window. The view from there was mostly the back garden and the rise of the land behind it. Rain on the glass, the dead apple tree, the gate still slightly ajar. Beyond it, darker shapes where the first trees of blackfen wood crowded close together. I only glanced out because I wanted to check if the weather was easing. But there was someone standing at the far end of the garden. At first, all I really registered was height. A person very still, near the hedge line where the nettles were tallest. No umbrella, no torch, just a dark vertical shape in the rain. For one stupid second, I thought it might be Martin come back for some reason, and I nearly tapped on the glass to get his attention. Then the person moved their head a fraction, just enough that I knew they were looking straight up at me. I dropped below the window so fast I banged my shin on the bed frame. My whole body went hot and cold at once. That awful chemical flood of fear where your hands go weak but your hearing sharpens. I crouched there in silence, one hand over my mouth, listening for something. Footsteps, a knock, the sound of the back door trying again. Nothing came. Only rain, only the old house shifting. I stayed on the floor for I don't know how long, Maybe 30 seconds, maybe 3 minutes. Long enough for my legs to start aching. Long enough to feel ridiculous and terrified at the same time. Eventually, I edged up, slowly, until one eye was level with the sill. The garden was empty. There was no one by the hedge, no movement by the gate, no shape among the nettles, nothing. Just the rain and the dead tree and the strip of white fabric still twisting on the wood like a little raised hand. That was the moment, I think, the real beginning. Not the footprints, not the woman in the shop, not even the open gate. That was the moment the place stopped feeling merely strange and started feeling wrong in a way I couldn't explain. Because if someone had been there, they'd had nowhere to go that quickly without me seeing. And if no one had been there, then I had already started imagining people in the garden on my first night alone. Neither possibility made me feel any better. I shut the curtains after that, every one of them. I checked both doors twice. I put my phone on charge beside the bed and kept the torch within reach. Then I got in under the duvet, fully dressed apart from my shoes, listening to the rain and telling myself over and over that I was being stupid, that moving somewhere unfamiliar always rattles you at first, that by morning I'd be embarrassed by how worked up I'd let myself become. But even then, with the lights on and the house apparently still, one thought kept returning, quiet and stubborn and impossible to shake. I had only been in Blackfin a few hours, and already somehow something had come to the back door as if it had been expecting me. I didn't sleep properly that first night. I drifted in and out of it, the kind of shallow, restless half-sleep where your body never quite switches off. Every small noise felt exaggerated. The ticking downstairs, the soft thud of something shifting in the walls, the wind pressing itself against the windows like it was trying to get in. I kept telling myself it was just the storm, just an old house reacting to weather, just unfamiliar surroundings playing tricks on me. And for a while that worked. I lay there staring at the faint glow of the bedside lamp, convincing myself that once morning came, everything would feel normal again. But there's a moment, somewhere between tired and fully awake, where your brain stops arguing and just listens. And that's when I heard it. A soft, deliberate tap. Not loud, not frantic, just controlled. Tap. I froze. It came again, exactly the same. Tap. It wasn't random. It wasn't the wind throwing something against the glass. It had rhythm, intention, like someone testing the window gently, almost politely, as if they didn't want to wake the whole house. I remember holding my breath without meaning to, listening so hard my ears actually started to ache. There was a long pause after the second tap, just enough time for doubt to creep back in. I almost convinced myself it was nothing, some loose branch, maybe something blown loose in the garden. Then, tap, tap, two this time, closer together, from the window, right beside the bed. Every part of me went cold. I didn't move straight away. That's the strange thing people don't really talk about. You don't always react instantly. Sometimes you just wait, like your body's trying to decide whether acknowledging it will make it worse. I slowly turned my head toward the window. The curtains were drawn. Thin, pale fabric, the kind that lets shapes through, but not detail. The rain had softened to a steady hiss, and behind it, faintly illuminated by the outdoor light somewhere down the lane, I could see the outline of the glass. And there was something darker against it. Still, too still. I told myself it was the tree. It had to be. That dead apple tree in the garden, I must have misjudged how close it was to the house. The branches were probably brushing against the glass. That was it. That was all it was. But the tapping didn't come from the top of the window where branches would be. It came from the middle, at head height. I sat up slowly, every movement careful, like I didn't want to draw attention to myself. My heart was already hammering, loud enough I was certain, absolutely certain, whatever was outside could hear it. I remember thinking, don't be stupid, just check. It's nothing. It's always nothing. I reached out and grabbed the torch from the bedside table. For a second, I just held it there, not turning it on. Because the moment I did, I'd be committing to seeing whatever was out there. And part of me, an embarrassingly large part, wanted to stay in that space where it might still be explainable. Then the tapping came again, slower this time. Tap, tap, like impatience. I flicked the torch on. The beam hit the curtain, turning it into a pale, glowing sheet. I could see the shape behind it more clearly now. Tall, narrow, unmoving, not a tree, not a branch, a person. I swear to you, every instinct I had screamed at me not to open that curtain, not to look, to stay exactly where I was and pretend I hadn't heard anything at all. But there's another instinct too, the one that pushes you forward when you should step back, the one that needs to know. I stood up. My legs didn't feel steady. There was a slight delay between telling them to move and them actually doing it, like I was walking through water. I took one step toward the window, then another. The tapping stopped. That was worse, much worse, because now it felt like whatever was out there was waiting for me. I reached the curtain and just stood there for a moment, inches away from it. The torchlight shook slightly in my hand, making the shadow beyond the fabric shift in subtle, unnatural ways. I could see the outline of shoulders, a head tilted slightly to one side, watching. I honestly thought if I open this and it's just someone from the village, if it's something normal, I'm going to feel like an absolute idiot. But if it wasn't, I didn't finish that thought. I grabbed the edge of the curtain and pulled it back. Fast. The light hit the glass. Rain streaked down the outside, distorting everything for a split second. And then it cleared just enough for me to see. There was a man standing less than a foot from the window. No coat, no umbrella. Just soaked through completely, his clothes clinging to him like he'd been standing out there for a long time. His face was pale, not sickly, not gray, just blank. Like it didn't belong to the rain or the night or anything around him, but it was his eyes that made something inside me drop. He wasn't blinking, not even in the rain, and he wasn't reacting to the light in his face at all. He just stood there looking straight at me. I don't think I breathed. Neither did he. For a second, just a second, it felt like the world had narrowed down to that one thin pane of glass between us. Like everything else had been stripped away. No house, no storm, no distance, just me and him, and the fact that he had been there long enough to start tapping on the window. Then slowly, so slowly I almost didn't notice it at first, his lips moved. I couldn't hear anything, not through the glass, not over the rain, but he was saying something. I leaned in slightly without thinking, straining to make it out. That stupid, dangerous instinct again, the need to understand. His mouth kept forming the same shape, over and over, a single word. I don't know how I knew what it was, but I did. Open. I stumbled back so quickly I hit the side of the wardrobe. The torch beam jerked wildly across the room, then back to the window. He hadn't moved, still there, still watching, still mouthing the same word. Open. Something in me snapped then. Not panic, not yet. Something sharper, more focused. I lunged forward and yanked the curtain shut, cutting him off completely. The sudden barrier felt thin, useless, but I needed it. I needed something between us, even if it was just fabric. I stepped back again, breathing hard now, my chest tight like I've been running. Think, just think. What are you supposed to do in that situation? Call someone? Who? It was the middle of nowhere. I didn't know anyone in the village. I barely had signal half the time. And what would I even say? There's a man standing outside my bedroom window asking to be let in? I grabbed my phone anyway, hands shaking enough that I nearly dropped it. No signal, of course. I moved toward the door, thinking maybe downstairs would be better. Behind me, tap. I flinched so hard I almost cried out. He was still there, still tapping, but now it was different. Not on the glass, on the wall, right beside the window. Slow, measured, like he knew exactly where I was standing. I backed away from the door and pressed myself against the opposite wall, staring at the curtain as if it might suddenly move on its own. The tapping continued. Tap, tap, tap. It didn't get louder. It didn't get faster. It just kept going, steady and patient, like it had all the time in the world. And that was the moment something settled in my chest that I couldn't shake. This wasn't someone knocking to be let in. This wasn't confusion or coincidence or some lost person trying their luck at the wrong house. This was deliberate, quiet, controlled, and whatever was outside, it wasn't in a hurry. It knew I was alone, and it was waiting for me to do something stupid. I don't know how long I stood there listening to the tapping. Time does something strange when you're that afraid. It stretches and folds in on itself. A few seconds feel like minutes, and then suddenly you realize you've been frozen in the same spot for far too long without doing anything at all. The tapping stopped eventually. Not abruptly, just faded. One last tap, then nothing. That silence was worse than the noise, because now I had no idea if he was still there. I stayed exactly where I was, back pressed against the wall, staring at the curtain like it might move. My ears were straining for anything: footsteps, breathing, the sound of someone shifting their weight on the gravel outside. But there was nothing except the rain and the faint creak of the house settling again. Slowly, carefully, I moved. One step, then another. I edged toward the bedroom door, not taking my eyes off the window. Every instinct told me not to turn my back on it, not even for a second. I reached the handle and paused. I honestly thought, if I open this door and something's on the landing, I won't be able to deal with that. But staying in the room didn't feel safe anymore either. That was the problem. There wasn't a safe option, just different kinds of risk. I opened the door. The landing was dark, the only light coming from the bedroom behind me. The staircase dropped away into shadow, and the air out there felt colder somehow, as if the heat from the bedroom didn't quite reach it. I stepped out and pulled the door almost shut behind me, leaving just a sliver of light. I didn't want to be completely in the dark, but I didn't want to draw attention either. "Hello?" I called, my voice barely above a whisper. It sounded wrong in the space. Too small. No answer. Of course not. I stood there for a few seconds, listening, trying to decide whether to go down or go back inside and lock myself in. My heart was still racing, but there was something else creeping in now. Not calm, never calm, but a kind of forced control. The same thing that makes you check under the bed, even though you're terrified of what might be there. I started down the stairs. Each step creaked, louder than it had earlier. I winced every time, convinced the sound would carry through the whole house and beyond it. My grip tightened around the torch, the beam jittering slightly as I angled it down into the darkness. The sitting room looked exactly as I'd left it. The kitchen beyond it too. Nothing out of place, nothing obviously wrong. But the feeling hadn't gone. If anything, it had shifted. Before, it had been outside the house. Now it felt closer, inside the walls. I reached the bottom of the stairs and stood still, letting the torchlight sweep slowly across the room. The back door was still braced with the table. The curtains were drawn tight. The strip of white fabric outside cast a faint shadow against the glass whenever the wind caught it. Everything looked secure. So why did it feel like something had already gotten in? I took a step into the kitchen, and that's when I heard it, a soft clink from the scullery. I froze. The sound came again, ceramic against ceramic, gentle, careful, like someone setting something down quietly, trying not to make a noise, except they already had. My mind scrambled for explanations. A plate settling, something slipping on the drying rack, the house shifting, but none of that fit, because the sound had intention. I turned the torch toward the scullery doorway. It was pitch black inside, no windows, no light, just a narrow opening and darkness beyond it. I stood there, every muscle locked, trying to decide what to do. Don't go in there. That was the sensible thought, but something else followed immediately after. If you don't check, you won't know. And not knowing had already started to feel worse than anything else. I moved toward the doorway, slowly. The beam of the torch stretched into the darkness, illuminating the edge of the counter, the sink, the old draining board, and a teacup, balanced on its side, still moving, gently rocking like it had just been nudged. I stopped dead. The cup tipped slightly, then settled. The room was empty, completely empty. I stepped inside anyway. I don't know why. Maybe because seeing the cup move had broken something in my head. That line between this is explainable and this isn't had already been crossed. So what difference did it make now? Is someone there? I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. No answer. I took another step in. The air in the scullery was colder than the rest of the house. Not dramatically, but enough to notice. Enough to make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Then, a voice, right behind me. You shouldn't have come here alone. I spun around so fast the torch beam blurred across the walls. No one. No one in the doorway. No one in the kitchen beyond. Nothing. But I had heard it. Not imagined it. Not thought it. Heard it. Close. Too close. I backed into the counter, my breath coming fast now, my chest tight. My brain was trying to catch up, trying to process what had just happened, but it felt like everything was lagging half a second behind reality. Who's there? I said louder this time. My voice cracked. Silence. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to think. Okay, this is... what? Someone in the house. That's the only explanation. Someone who knows the layout. Someone who's hiding. Someone who just spoke to me from behind. My grip tightened on the torch until my knuckles hurt. Listen, I said, trying to sound firm, controlled. I don't know who you are, but you need to leave. I'm calling the police. It was a lie, and I think, somehow, whatever was in that house knew it. Because the next thing that happened made absolutely no sense at all. The teacup behind me moved, not rocked, not slipped, moved, just a fraction, scraped slightly across the draining board. I turned slowly, every instinct screaming at me not to. The cup was now facing the other direction, as if someone had picked it up and set it down again, except I hadn't touched it, and no one else was there. That was the moment something inside me gave way. Not panic, not the loud kind, not yet. Something quieter, something worse, a kind of hollow realization. This isn't normal. This isn't someone hiding. This isn't something I can understand. I backed out of the scullery, step by step, keeping the torch trained on the doorway as if something might come out of it at any second. You're not real, I muttered under my breath, more to myself than anything else. This isn't real. But even as I said it, I didn't believe it, because the house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt occupied, and not in the way I'd imagined earlier. Not someone moving from room to room, not footsteps, not shadows, not glimpses. Something else, something that didn't need to move to be close. I reached the center of the kitchen and stopped. I didn't want to turn my back on the scullery. I didn't want to look at the back door. I didn't want to go upstairs. I didn't want to stay where I was. There was no position in that house that felt safe anymore. Then, from somewhere above me, a slow, deliberate creak. Footsteps on the landing. Right outside my bedroom, I felt the blood drain from my face. No, that's not possible. I just come down from there. There was no one upstairs, there couldn't be. But the sound came again. One step, then another, measured, heavy, like someone walking across the exact same floorboards I'd been standing on minutes earlier. I didn't move. I couldn't. All I could do was stand there in the middle of the kitchen, staring up at the ceiling, listening to something pacing slowly above me, in a place I knew had been empty. And that's when the real fear hit. Not the sharp, sudden kind. Something deeper, colder. The kind that settles in your chest and stays there. Because whatever was in that house, it wasn't just outside. It wasn't just behind me. It wasn't just in the walls. It was everywhere, and somehow it already knew exactly where I was. I don't remember deciding to move. One second I was standing in the kitchen staring at the ceiling, listening to those slow, deliberate footsteps above me, and the next I was backing away, step by step, until my shoulders hit the wall near the front door. The footsteps didn't stop. They didn't rush. They didn't react to me. They just continued. Like whoever or whatever was up there had no reason to hurry. That was what broke me. Not the voice, not the teacup, not even the man at the window. It was the calm, the complete lack of urgency, as if I wasn't something to chase, just something already contained. I fumbled for the front door latch, my hands clumsy, numb. It took me 2 tries to get it open, and when it finally gave, I didn't hesitate. I stepped straight out into the rain without even thinking about shoes, coat, anything. Just out. Cold hit me instantly. Sharp, real, and for a second, just a second, I felt relief. Because outside, at least, things made sense. Rain, wind, darkness, normal things. I turned, expecting, almost bracing myself to see someone at the back of the house, someone moving along the hedge, someone standing where I'd seen him before. But there was nothing. No movement, no figure, no sign anyone had ever been there at all. The garden looked exactly as it had earlier, empty, overgrown, still except for the rain pressing everything flat. I stood there for a moment, breathing hard, trying to slow my thoughts down. Okay, think. Someone got in. That's the only explanation. They're upstairs now. You need help. That was the first clear thought I'd had in what felt like ages. I grabbed my phone from my pocket. No signal. Of course. I swore under my breath and looked up the lane toward the village. It wasn't far. 5 minutes, maybe less if I ran. The idea of leaving the house open behind me felt wrong, dangerous, but staying felt worse. I turned and pulled the front door shut, not even bothering to lock it properly. Then I started walking, fast at first, then faster, then almost running. The lane felt longer than it had earlier. The darkness seemed thicker somehow, the hedges closer, the road narrower. My footsteps splashed against the wet tarmac, echoing back at me in a way that made it sound like someone was just half a step behind. I didn't look back. I couldn't, because I knew if I did, I'd either see nothing and feel stupid, or see something and completely lose it. Neither option felt safe. By the time I reached the first lit cottage, my chest was tight, my breath uneven. I went straight to the door and knocked, harder than I meant to. No answer. I knocked again, nothing. But I could see light inside, movement even, a shadow passing behind the curtain. "They're there," I muttered. "They're just not answering." That was the first moment something shifted again. Not fear. Not exactly. Something colder. The same feeling I'd had in the shop earlier. Like I wasn't entirely welcome. Like people already knew enough not to get involved. I stepped back from the door, suddenly aware of how I must look, soaked, pale, shaking, standing on someone's doorstep in the middle of the night. "Right?" I said to myself, trying to stay steady. Keep going. The shop was still faintly lit at the end of the lane. I headed for it. When I pushed the door open, the bell above it gave a small, tired ring. The same woman was behind the counter, exactly where she'd been earlier, as if she hadn't moved all evening. She looked up, and for a moment, just a moment, I saw something like recognition in her expression. Not surprise, not confusion, recognition. "You came back quick," she said. Her voice was calm, too calm. "There's someone in the house," I said, the words coming out faster than I could control. "I don't know who it is, but they're inside. They were upstairs, I heard them, and there was someone at the window earlier." She didn't interrupt. She just watched me, carefully. When I finished, she let out a slow breath and rested her hands on the counter. "Did you let them in?" she asked. The question hit me harder than anything else. "What?" I said. "Did you open the door?" She repeated, still calm, still steady. "No," I said quickly. "No, of course I didn't." I stopped, because suddenly I wasn't sure. Not about the door, but about something else. The curtain, the window, the moment I'd stepped closer, the way I'd leaned in to look. "No," I said again, but weaker this time. She studied me for a second longer, then nodded slightly, as if confirming something to herself. "Sit down," she said, gesturing to a chair near the wall. "I don't want to sit down," I snapped. "I need to call someone, the police are—" "No signal tonight," she said flatly. "Storm knocks it out. Someone has to come with me. You can't just—" "No one's going down there tonight," she said. That was it. No hesitation, no apology, just a statement. I stared at her. "What do you mean no one's going down there?" I said, my voice rising. "There's someone in my house." She didn't flinch. "Not your house," she said quietly. "Not really." A chill went through me that had nothing to do with the rain. "What's that supposed to mean?" She didn't answer straight away. Instead, she reached under the counter, pulled out a small kettle, and set it on a portable burner. The ordinary, almost domestic motion felt surreal against everything I just experienced. "You'll want something hot," she said. "I don't want tea," I said, my voice tight. "I want to know what's going on." She glanced up at me then, really looked at me, and whatever she saw seemed to settle something. "You heard it, didn't you?" she said. "Inside." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She nodded again, slow, resigned. "They always say something," she murmured. "Different each time, but always close." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean always?" She hesitated. And for the first time, I saw something like fear in her face. Not panic, not shock, something older. "He shouldn't be out yet," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Who?" I demanded. But she didn't answer that either. Instead, she said, "You're not the first to come running up here." The room seemed to tilt slightly. "What do you mean I'm not the first?" She met my eyes. "Last winter," she said, "a man stayed there, same place. Said he heard someone moving about when he was alone. Said things didn't stay where he left them. Thought someone was breaking in." "And," I asked, my throat dry. "He left," she said. "That was it. Just that." "He left," I repeated. "So he was fine?" She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she poured water into a chipped mug, her hands steady despite everything she was saying. "He came back," she said finally. My chest tightened. "Why?" She looked at me in a way that made my stomach twist. "Same reason you didn't stay in the house and wait it out," she said. "Because once you know something's there, you can't pretend it isn't." The implication settled slowly, heavy, cold. What happened to him? I asked. She slid the mug across the counter toward me. He stopped coming to the shop, she said. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're going to get tonight. I stared at her, trying to decide whether she was avoiding the question or if that genuinely was all she knew, or all she was willing to say. And the others, I said quietly. Her eyes flicked up again. You said I'm not the first. She held my gaze for a long moment. Then she looked away. There's a reason that place stays empty, she said. I felt something shift again inside me. Everything I'd experienced, the footsteps, the voice, the man at the window, it all rearranged itself in my mind. Not as isolated incidents, not as random fear, but as something repeated, something known, something that had happened before, many times. And suddenly the worst part wasn't what had happened in the house. It was the fact that nobody had warned me. Nobody had stopped me. They just let me move in. I pushed the mug away. I'm not going back there, I said. The words felt solid, certain, final. For the first time since this had started, I felt something like control again. The woman nodded slowly. That's wise, she said. But the way she said it, it didn't feel like reassurance. It felt like a delay. And then, almost as an afterthought, she added, just don't stay alone. A pause, a long one. I frowned slightly. What? She didn't look at me. Not tonight, she said. Not after it started. Something cold slipped down my spine. What do you mean started? She didn't answer. Outside, the wind picked up again, rattling the shop windows. And for a brief second, just a flicker, I thought I saw movement beyond the glass. Not passing by, not walking, standing, still, watching. Right where the light from inside couldn't quite reach. I blinked. It was gone. But the feeling didn't leave. Because now, for the first time, I wasn't just thinking about the house. I was thinking about the possibility that whatever had been there hadn't stayed behind. I didn't leave the shop. Not that night. I told myself it was because of the storm, because the roads were bad, because it made sense to wait until morning when everything would feel clearer and more manageable. But the truth was simpler than that. I didn't trust the dark anymore. Not outside, not inside, not anywhere in between. The woman, she never gave me her name, and I didn't think to ask, let me stay without making a fuss. She locked the front door, turned the sign to close, and pulled a thin curtain across the window. The bell above the door gave a soft, final chime, like it was marking something ending or beginning. You can sit through there, she said, nodding toward a narrow doorway behind the counter. There's a small room. Sofa's not comfortable, but it'll do. I'm not sleeping, I said quickly. She didn't argue. Suit yourself, she replied, already turning back to tidy something that didn't need tidying. The room behind the shop was exactly what you'd expect. Small, dim, a sagging sofa pushed against the wall, a low table with old magazines, a faint smell of dust and stale heat. There was a single lamp in the corner, casting a soft yellow glow that didn't quite reach the ceiling. I sat down anyway, because standing felt worse, because doing nothing felt better than doing the wrong thing. For a while, neither of us spoke. I could hear her moving quietly in the shop, cups, drawers, the soft scrape of something being slid across a surface. Normal sounds, comforting almost. I held onto them like proof that something in the world still made sense. But my mind wouldn't settle. It kept going back. The footprints, the man at the window, the voice behind me, the footsteps upstairs, each memory sharper now, clearer, not blurred by panic anymore, but sharpened by it. And then something else started to creep in, something I hadn't let myself think about before. If that house had done this before, if other people had heard things, seen things, then what I'd experienced wasn't random. It was part of something, a pattern. And patterns have rules. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees, staring at the worn carpet as if the answer might be written into it. What had I done? What had I missed? The woman appeared in the doorway then, carrying another mug. You should drink something, she said, setting it down on the table in front of me. I'm fine, I replied automatically. She didn't move. Drink it, she said, not unkindly. I hesitated, then picked it up. It was hot, stronger than tea, something bitter underneath the sweetness. I took a small sip, more out of obligation than anything else. She sat down opposite me, watching, not in a comforting way, in a measuring way. You said you didn't open the door, she said after a moment. I didn't, I replied. And the window? I frowned. What about it? Did you touch it? No, I said. then paused. I mean, I pulled the curtain back. That's it. She nodded slowly like she'd expected that answer. And the back gate, she added. You shut it earlier, didn't you? A flicker of unease ran through me. Yes. And it opened again. It wasn't a question. I stared at her. How do you know that? She didn't answer directly. They always try the edges first, she said instead. Doors, windows, gates, things that sit between in and out. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Who does? I asked. Her eyes met mine. They don't come straight in, she continued, as if I hadn't spoken. Not unless they're let. They press, see what gives, see what notices. That doesn't make any sense, I said, sharper than I meant to. No, she agreed quietly, it doesn't. The room fell silent again. I took another sip of the drink, more to have something to do than anything else. My hands were still shaking slightly, though less than before. So what is it? I asked finally. A person? Someone living out there? In the woods? She let out a soft breath. There was a man once, she said. Years ago. Lived rough in the trees. People said he'd come down to the houses at night, look through windows, take things. Never proved. Never caught. That's what this is then, I said quickly, relief flickering. Someone like that. Someone hiding, getting into the house somehow. No, she said. The word cut clean through my attempt at explanation. That's not all of it. The relief vanished just as quickly as it had come. Then what? I pressed. She didn't answer straight away. Instead, she leaned back slightly, her gaze drifting toward the closed door of the shop, as if listening for something beyond it. When they found that man, she said slowly, he wasn't in the woods. I frowned. Where was he? Her eyes returned to mine. In the house, she said. Something inside me tightened. What do you mean? They found him inside the walls, she continued. Between the rooms, crawl spaces, old passage built into the place years ago. No one knew it was there until they started pulling things apart. My stomach dropped. That's not possible, I said. I didn't see anything like that. You wouldn't, she said. Not straight away. The memory of the scullery flashed through my mind. The narrow space, the odd angles, the way the room had felt wrong. There was someone living in there? I asked, my voice quieter now. For a time, she said. Before. Before what? She didn't answer that. Instead, she said, they found things in there, belongings, not just his. A chill ran down my spine. What kind of things? She hesitated. Then, reluctantly, shoes, small ones, children, old, mostly, but not all. The room seemed colder suddenly. Why would he have those? I asked. She shook her head slightly. They never worked that out. I stared at her, my thoughts racing. Okay, that explains something. Someone living in the walls, someone moving through the house without being seen, someone watching. That explained the voice, the movement, the footsteps. But not everything. Not the man at the window. Not the way he'd stood there. Not the way he hadn't reacted to the light. And definitely not the way he'd mouthed that word. Open. That's not what I saw, I said quietly. She watched me carefully. What did you see? I hesitated, because saying it out loud made it real. There was a man outside the window, I said, standing there, in the rain, just watching. Her expression didn't change. He didn't move, I continued. Didn't blink. He just stood there. And when I looked at him, he was saying something. What? I swallowed. He wanted me to open the window. The silence that followed was heavy. Not shocked, not surprised, just confirming. She nodded once. Yeah, she said softly. That sounds right. Something in my chest tightened again. What does that mean? I asked. She leaned forward slightly, her voice lower now. It means it's not just the man in the walls, she said. I felt a slow, creeping dread begin to spread through me. Then what is it? She held my gaze. Whatever was there before him, she said. The words settled into the room like something physical, heavy, unwelcome. I shook my head slightly, trying to push it away. No, I said. No, this is real. This is something real. Someone real. Maybe, she said. Part of it is. Part of it? She didn't elaborate. Instead, she said, the man in the walls. He learned the house, used it, moved through it, but he didn't start it. A faint ringing began in my ears. What did? She looked at me for a long moment, then said, very quietly, the thing that knows when you're alone. I felt my breath catch. That's not. I started, but the words fell apart before I could finish them. Because something in me already knew that what I'd felt in that house wasn't just fear, it was attention, focused, intent, waiting. And now it started with you, she added. The room seemed to close in slightly. "What does that mean?" I asked. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. She leaned back again, her expression unreadable. "It means," she said slowly, "you didn't just walk into an empty house tonight." A pause. Then quietly, "You walked into something that's been waiting." My hands tightened around the mug without me realizing. "For what?" I whispered. Her eyes didn't leave mine. "For someone," she said. The implication hit me all at once. Cold, heavy, unavoidable. Not just someone alone. And for the first time since I'd left the house, I felt it again, that same exact feeling. Not fear, not quite, something worse. The sense that even here, even now, something knew exactly where I was. And it hadn't finished with me yet. I didn't sleep at all. I don't mean I struggled to sleep. I mean I didn't even try. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same things replaying behind them. The man at the window, the teacup turning. The way the footsteps upstairs hadn't rushed, hadn't hesitated. Just moved as if they had always belonged there. So I stayed awake. Sat on that narrow sofa with the lamp on, staring at nothing in particular, listening to the quiet sounds of the shop beyond the door. At some point, the woman must have slept. I stopped hearing her move, but I didn't go out to check. I didn't want to open any doors unless I absolutely had to. Morning came slowly, gray light first, seeping through the edges of the curtains, then the faint hum of the world starting again. Distant cars, wind easing, rain settling into something softer. Ordinary sounds, reassuring in theory, but nothing felt ordinary anymore. I checked my phone as soon as there was enough light to see properly. Signal, full bars, like nothing had ever been wrong. I stared at it for a moment, then let out a short, humorless laugh. "Convenient," I muttered. The door creaked slightly as it opened behind me. I turned to see the woman standing there, already dressed, as if she hadn't slept at all. "You're still here," she said. "I told you I wasn't going back," I replied. She nodded once, like that confirmed something. "Good?" A pause. Then she added, "For now." I frowned slightly at that, but didn't push it. "I need answers," I said instead. "Proper ones, not whatever last night was." She leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. "You won't get anything proper out of me," she said. "Not because I don't want to, because there isn't anything proper to give." "There has to be," I insisted. "You said there was a man, someone living in the walls. That's real. That's something I can actually deal with." "And the rest?" she asked quietly. I hesitated, because I didn't have an answer for that. "Exactly," she said. I ran a hand through my hair, frustration starting to push past the fear. "So what? Everyone just knows about this and does nothing? Just leaves people to move in and figure it out themselves?" Her expression tightened slightly. "No one moves in without being told it's cheap," she said. "And there's always a reason something's cheap." "That's not the same thing." "No," she agreed. "It isn't." Silence settled between us again. Then, after a moment, she said, "If you want answers, you won't find them in the house." "Where then?" She tilted her head slightly, as if weighing something. "Records office," she said. "County archives, old parish logs, anything that hasn't been tidied up." That caught my attention immediately. "Tidied up?" She gave a faint, almost humorless smile. "Places like this don't like keeping written proof of things they don't understand," she said. "Especially when it doesn't go away." A chill ran through me. "So there is something," I pressed. "There's always something," she replied. "You just won't like what shape it takes." By mid-morning, I was driving out of Blackfin. I didn't go back to the cottage. I didn't even look down the lane as I passed it. I kept my eyes fixed on the road ahead, hands tight on the steering wheel, as if the place might somehow pull me back if I gave it the chance. The countryside looked completely different in daylight, less threatening, almost normal. Fields stretching out in muted greens and browns, stone walls dividing them in long, uneven lines, the woods now just trees instead of something darker. If I hadn't been there the night before, I might have believed none of it had happened. But that's the trick, isn't it? Everything looks fine in the morning. That doesn't mean it is. The county archives were about 40 minutes away, in a small town that felt busier than Blackfin by comparison. Shops open, people walking, traffic moving, normal life. I parked, sat in the car for a minute, and just breathed. Then I went inside. The building itself was exactly what you'd expect. Quiet, warm, shelves upon shelves of files and records, the faint smell of paper and dust hanging in the air. It felt safe in a way the cottage hadn't. Structured, organized, logical. That helped, a little. A woman at the front desk looked up as I approached. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'm looking for records," I said. "Blackfin, property history, land registry, anything like that." She nodded, already turning to her computer. "House name? Briar House," I said. Her fingers paused for just a fraction of a second, barely noticeable. But I saw it. Then she carried on typing. "You'll want the local records section," she said. "Back room, third row. Ask if you need anything." "Thanks," I said, watching her carefully. She didn't look back up. I moved into the archive room. It was quieter there, almost completely silent. Just the faint rustle of paper somewhere deeper inside, the occasional creak of old shelving. I found the section I needed and started pulling files. At first, it was exactly what I expected. Ownership records, transfers, renovation notes, nothing unusual. Just a list of names, dates, transactions. People buying, people selling, people leaving. I flipped through them quickly, scanning for anything that stood out. Then I noticed something. Gaps. Small at first. A missing page here. A skipped year there. Nothing obvious unless you were looking closely. But I was. And the more I looked, the more gaps I found. Sections that should have been there, but weren't. I frowned, pulling another file down. Same thing. Records that trailed off mid-entry. Dates that didn't line up. Names that appeared once and then never again. It didn't feel like random loss. It felt deliberate, like someone had gone through and removed specific pieces. I took a step back, scanning the shelves, and that's when I saw it. A thinner file, tucked slightly out of place, not labeled like the others. I pulled it down, opened it. Inside were older documents, handwritten, faded, different from the rest. These hadn't been processed into the system, hadn't been cataloged properly, which meant they'd probably been overlooked or ignored. I flipped to the first readable entry. 1974, a name, Nathan Vale. I felt something tighten in my chest. I kept reading. It wasn't a formal report, more like a statement, someone recounting events in a careful, uncertain hand. Boy left house before dusk, said he'd take the path through Blackfin Wood, never arrived at his aunt's property. Search conducted following morning. The writing grew less steady further down, found items near the lower boundary. Shoes, no sign of body. I swallowed. Shoes, I turned the page. Another entry, different handwriting. Family reported disturbances prior to disappearance, knocking sounds at walls and doors. Child claims someone in the house talks when it rains. A chill spread through me. The voice, the tapping, the rain. I flipped again, more fragments, more names, different years, similar notes, disturbances, voices, things moving, always the same pattern, and always someone alone. I stepped back slightly, my pulse starting to pick up again. This wasn't just one incident. This wasn't just a man in the walls. This went back decades, maybe longer. I glanced around the room. It was still quiet, still empty, but suddenly it didn't feel as safe as it had before. Because now I knew this wasn't contained. This wasn't isolated to one house. It was tied to the place itself, to Blackfin, to the woods, to whatever had been there long before anyone started writing things down. I looked back at the file. One last entry caught my eye. Newer, not as old as the others, typed, formal, but brief, too brief. Occupant vacated property after reporting presence within structural voids. No further investigation required. That was it. No follow-up, no detail, just dismissed. I let out a slow breath. No further investigation required, I repeated under my breath, as if that solved anything, as if that meant it had stopped, as if it had ever been under control. I closed the file, carefully, slowly, because something in me had shifted again. The fear was still there, but now it had shape, history, pattern. This wasn't random, it wasn't new, and whatever it was, it had been happening for a long time, a very long time, and somehow I had walked straight into it, without even knowing it existed. I left the archives with more questions than answers. That shouldn't have surprised me. Places like that don't give you clean endings, just fragments, hints, enough truth to make everything worse without ever explaining it properly. But I had hoped at least for something solid, something I could hold on to and say this is what it is. Instead, all I had was a pattern, voices, tapping, people alone, and things that didn't stay where they should. I sat in the car for a long time before driving back. I told myself I wasn't going to the cottage. That was decided. I wasn't stepping back inside that place. I'd find somewhere else. even if it meant a hotel miles away, even if it cost more than I could afford. But the problem wasn't just the house anymore. It was the feeling that whatever had been there wasn't limited to it. That thought followed me the entire drive. It sat quietly in the back of my mind, growing heavier with every mile, until by the time I reached the edge of Blackfin again, I didn't feel relief at all, just tension. The village looked the same as it had the day before. Gray stone, narrow roads, curtains half drawn in windows, people moving about their routines. Normal, too normal. I slowed slightly as I passed the lane that led to Briar House. I hadn't meant to look, but I did, just for a second. The lane was empty, no movement, no sign anything had happened. It looked untouched, as if the night before had never existed. I pressed the accelerator and kept going. I ended up renting a room above a pub about 10 minutes outside the village. It wasn't ideal, too noisy, too close to other people, but that was exactly why I chose it. Noise meant life. People meant witnesses. Walls that weren't hollow. I checked in, dropped my bag on the bed, and stood there for a moment, taking it in. A normal room, plain furniture, clean sheets. A small window overlooking the car park. Nothing hidden, nothing strange. It should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt temporary, like I hadn't actually escaped anything. I sat down on the edge of the bed and let out a long breath. "Okay," I said out loud. "You're out. That's it. You're done with that place." It sounded convincing, almost. I unpacked a few things, more out of habit than necessity. Phone charger, toiletries, clothes folded into the drawer. Small, normal actions to ground myself. Then I noticed something. My coat. It was hanging on the back of the chair where I'd left it, but the inside lining was damp. I frowned. That didn't make sense. It hadn't been raining when I came in, and even if it had, the outside would be wet, not the inside. I stepped closer, touching the fabric. Cold, damp, as if it had been turned inside out and exposed. I stared at it for a few seconds, my mind trying to slot it into something logical. Maybe I'd grabbed it wrong earlier. Maybe it had folded strangely. Maybe I stopped, because I knew I hadn't done that. I picked it up slowly, turning it over. There was dirt on the inside seam. Not much, just enough to notice. Fresh. A faint sinking feeling settled in my stomach. "No," I muttered. No. I dropped it back onto the chair. "This is nothing. You're just on edge. You're looking for things. That's all." I forced myself to step away, to ignore it, to focus on something else. I turned on the TV, not even caring what channel it was on, just needing sound. Something to fill the space. The noise helped. For a while. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling, letting the distraction wash over me. People talking, music, laughter, normal life. But even then, my mind kept circling back. The archives, the files, the way the woman had said they always say something, the way she'd asked if I'd let it in. I sat up suddenly. That thought stuck. Let it in. I hadn't opened the door. I hadn't opened the window. So what did she mean? I ran back through everything in my head. The gate, the curtain, the moment I'd leaned in, the way I tried to listen, the way I'd responded. My stomach tightened. "No," I said out loud. "That doesn't count. That's not." But the doubt was there now. Quiet, persistent. What if it didn't need a door? What if attention was enough? What if noticing it was the invitation? A sharp knock sounded from somewhere nearby. I flinched so hard I nearly fell off the bed. Silence followed. Just the TV. Just the faint noise from downstairs. I let out a shaky breath. "Get a grip," I muttered. "There's probably someone in the next room, or a door closing, or pipes." Everything had an explanation. Everything had to. I stood up, pacing slightly, trying to shake the feeling. Then I caught sight of the bathroom door. It was slightly open. I was sure I'd closed it. I walked over slowly, pushing it open the rest of the way. Nothing inside. Everything exactly as it should be. Sink, mirror, towels, no movement. I stepped back out. As I did, I heard it, a soft scrape behind me. From the bedroom, I turned quickly. The chair, the one with my coat on it, it had moved. Not far, just a few inches, angled slightly toward the bed. I stared at it, my breath catching. "No," I said, shaking my head. "No, that didn't happen." But it had. I knew it had, because I hadn't touched it. And it wasn't like that before. A slow, creeping dread began to spread through me. Not sharp, not sudden, something deeper, more suffocating. I took a step back, then another. My eyes flicked to the walls, the corners, the ceiling. Nothing visible, nothing moving, but the feeling was back, stronger than before, closer, Not outside, not approaching, already here. You're not real, I whispered. The words sounded hollow, unconvincing. I grabbed my phone, hands trembling, and opened the camera. I don't know why. Maybe to prove something. Maybe to see something I couldn't with my own eyes. I turned slowly, scanning the room through the screen. Bed, chair, door, bathroom, nothing. Then, for a split second, something flickered at the edge of the frame. I whipped the phone around, nothing there. I checked the screen again, replayed it, nothing, just static movement from my own hand. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. This is in your head, I said, it's just stress, that's all. But even as I said it, something shifted. Not physically, not visibly, something else. A change in the room, in the air, in the way the silence felt, like it had thickened, like it was listening. Then, very faintly, from somewhere I couldn't place, a sound, a whisper, not clear, not words, just the shape of them. Close, too close, I froze. The whisper came again, softer this time, almost like it was trying to form something. I took a slow step back, my heart pounding. No, I said quietly. No, you're not here. But the whisper didn't stop. It lingered, just out of reach, just out of understanding. And then, for a brief, horrifying second, it sounded like my own voice, repeating something I hadn't said, something I hadn't even thought yet. Stay. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't move. I couldn't. Because in that moment, I realized something I hadn't wanted to accept. This wasn't tied to the house. It wasn't tied to the woods. It wasn't even tied to Blackfin. Whatever it was, it had followed me. And now, it didn't need to hide anymore. Because it wasn't outside. It wasn't behind me. It wasn't in the walls. It was already inside the space around me. And somehow it was getting closer without ever needing to move. I didn't stay in the room much longer after that. I told myself I was going downstairs for a drink, for noise, for people. But really, I just needed to get out of that space before I started believing everything I was hearing. The pub was busy enough, not packed, but full enough to feel normal. Low conversation, glasses clinking, a football match playing on a screen in the corner. Ordinary, grounding. For a while, it worked. I sat at the bar, nursing a drink I didn't really want, letting the noise settle my nerves. No whispers, no movement, no strange shifts in the air. Just people talking about nothing important. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Almost. Until I caught my reflection in the mirror behind the bar. And for a split second, I thought someone was standing behind me. I turned immediately. There was no one there. Just a couple at a table, a man at the far end of the bar, the bartender polishing glasses. Normal, completely normal. I let out a breath, forcing myself to laugh quietly under it. Get a grip, I muttered again. But I didn't look in the mirror after that. I stayed until closing, partly because I didn't want to go back upstairs, partly because I didn't trust what would be waiting for me if I did. When the lights came up and people started leaving, I lingered for a bit, finishing my drink slower than necessary. The bartender gave me a look but didn't say anything. Eventually, I had no excuse left. I went upstairs. The room looked exactly the same as I'd left it. Chair, bed, door, nothing moved, nothing out of place. For a second, I felt ridiculous, genuinely, like I'd let myself spiral over nothing. I locked the door this time, checked it twice, then sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, waiting for something to happen. Nothing did. Minutes passed, then more. The silence felt normal again. The air felt still. No whispers, no movement. I lay back slowly, keeping the light on. See? I said quietly. Nothing. I didn't turn the light off. I didn't even consider it. Eventually, exhaustion caught up with me. Not real sleep, just that heavy, dragging state where your body shuts down whether you want it to or not. And for a while, there was nothing. I woke up to darkness, complete, total. The light was off. I sat up immediately, heart already racing. No, I whispered. No, I didn't. I hadn't turned it off. I was sure of that. I reached for my phone, fumbling slightly, and switched the screen on. The time read 3:17 a.m. The room looked the same, but it felt different. Again, that same shift, that same presence, watching. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay still, to listen. Nothing, just silence. Then a faint glow. From the window, I turned slowly. The curtains were still open. I was sure I'd closed them, but they were parted just enough now that I could see outside. At first, I thought it was just the car park light. Then I realized it was moving, a soft yellow glow, unsteady, like a lantern. It drifted slowly across the far edge of the car park, then stopped. I stared at it, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Someone outside, that's all. Just someone walking. But who walks around a car park at 3 in the morning with a lantern? The light shifted again, not walking, gliding, slow, deliberate. Then it turned and started moving away, toward the road, toward the direction of Blackfin. Something in my chest tightened, a feeling I couldn't explain. Not curiosity, not exactly, more like recognition. I sat there for a moment, watching it go. Then I heard something very faint from the direction of the window, a whisper, not words, just sound, not urgent but insistent. My grip tightened on the phone. No, I said under my breath, but I didn't move away. The light outside continued drifting, slow, steady, waiting. And before I fully realized what I was doing, I was standing, moving, crossing the room. I pulled the curtain back further. The night air pressed faintly against the glass. The lantern was further away now, near the road. Still visible, still moving, still drawing me. This is stupid, I muttered. But I was already reaching for my shoes, already unlocking the door, already stepping out into the corridor. The pub was silent now, empty, dark. The air felt colder than before. I moved quickly, quietly, down the stairs, through the main room, and out the front door without really thinking about it. The night hit me like before, cold, damp, real. But the light was still there, further down the road now, heading toward the edge of the village, toward the woods. I followed, not running, not even fast, just walking, like I didn't want to lose sight of it. The road stretched ahead, empty. The village lights faded behind me, and with every step, the silence grew thicker, heavier. By the time I reached the end of the road, the lantern had already slipped into the darkness of the trees. I stopped at the edge. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to stop, to go home. But the whisper came again, soft, close, right behind me. Come. I turned. No one there, of course not. I faced the trees again. The darkness beyond them felt deeper than it should, unnatural, like it didn't belong to the night. I took a step forward, then another. The ground changed under my feet, soft, uneven, leaves and mud instead of tarmac. The trees closed in quickly, too quickly. And just like that, the world behind me disappeared. No road, no village, no light, only the forest, and somewhere ahead that faint, drifting glow. I followed it, because by then, I wasn't sure I had a choice anymore. The deeper I went, the quieter it became. No wind, no distant sounds, nothing, just my footsteps, and the occasional faint crack of something shifting underfoot. The lantern appeared again ahead, closer now, hovering between the trees. I moved toward it, slowly, carefully, and I saw it, a structure, barely visible at first. Low, collapsed, stone, an old building, or what was left of one. The lantern hovered just inside the opening, lighting the interior in a dull, flickering glow. I stepped closer. The air felt wrong here, heavy, still, like the forest itself was holding its breath. I reached the doorway and looked inside. The lantern sat on the ground, still, no one holding it, no one nearby, just placed there, waiting. My stomach twisted. This is a mistake, I whispered, but I stepped inside anyway. The light flickered against the walls, revealing shapes, objects, scattered, not random, not debris, personal. A shoe, a pair of glasses, a bag, old things, new things, mixed together, left behind. I crouched slightly, my hand hovering over one of the items. A child's shoe, worn, small. My chest tightened. I looked around. There were more, dozens, different sizes, different styles, all left here, all collected. A slow, creeping horror began to settle in. This wasn't abandoned. This was gathered. And then the whisper came again, closer, right beside my ear. You found them. I froze, every muscle locked, my breath caught, because this time it wasn't distant, it wasn't faint, it was right there, with me. Inside the ruin, inside the dark, and I wasn't alone anymore. I didn't turn around straight away. I couldn't. That voice right beside my ear had locked something in place inside me. Like if I moved too quickly, whatever was there would react. And I didn't want to know how it would react. My breathing had gone shallow, tight. I could feel it catching in my chest, like I'd forgotten how to do it properly. You're not real, I said quietly, but the words didn't sound convincing, not even to me. The lantern flickered slightly on the ground in front of me, its light stretching and shrinking against the broken stone walls. The objects scattered across the floor, the shoes, the glasses, the bag, seemed to shift in and out of shadow as the flame moved. Still no movement behind me, still no sound, just the presence. Close. Waiting. I swallowed hard and forced myself to turn. Slowly, carefully. Nothing. The doorway behind me was empty. The trees beyond it stood silent and still, their branches forming a dark frame around the entrance. No one there. No shape, no figure. But the feeling hadn't gone. It was still right behind me, right where the voice had been. I took a step back instinctively, and my foot hit something. A bag. Soft. I glanced down. It was newer than the others. Not old, not worn. Modern. Zipped halfway open. My stomach tightened. I crouched slightly, the movement automatic, like I needed to confirm what I was already thinking. Inside, clothes, folded, clean, a phone charger, a wallet. I froze because I knew exactly what that meant. This wasn't just a place where things had been left. It was a place people had come to recently and hadn't left from. A faint sound came from outside. A footstep, real, solid, not imagined. I stood up sharply and turned toward the doorway. This time, there was someone there. A man, standing just beyond the threshold. Not tall like the one at the window, not still like that. This one looked real. Solid, breathing, mid-30s maybe. Beard, mud-streaked jacket, eyes wide in a way that immediately told me he wasn't supposed to be there either. We stared at each other. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then, "What are you doing here?" he said. His voice was low, tense, human, completely human. Relief hit me so suddenly it almost made me dizzy. "I followed the light," I said quickly. "I thought." "You followed it?" He cut in, his expression tightening. "Yeah, what is this place? Who are you?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped inside, glancing behind him as if checking something. Then he shut the doorway partially, not fully closing it, but enough to block the direct line of sight to the trees. That small action, that instinct, made my chest tighten again. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "That's what everyone keeps saying," I snapped, my nerves fraying. "No one actually explains anything." He looked at me then, really looked, taking in my face, my posture, the tension I was barely holding together. "You've been to the house," he said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. "Last night." His jaw tightened. "And you heard it?" Again, not a question. "Yeah." A pause. Then he let out a breath, slow and controlled. "Right," he said. "Okay." "Okay what?" I demanded. "What is this? What's going on?" He ran a hand through his hair, clearly struggling with something. "Look," he said finally, "you need to leave. Now. We both do." "Not until you tell me what this is," I said, gesturing around us. "What are all these things? Who left them?" His eyes flicked briefly to the scattered items, then back to me. "People who came looking," he said. "For what?" He hesitated. "Then, for the same thing you are." The answer hit harder than I expected. "I wasn't looking for anything," I said. He gave a short, humorless laugh. "Yeah," he said, "none of us were." A chill crept up my spine. "What do you mean, none of us?" He didn't respond straight away. Instead, he moved toward the lantern, nudging it slightly with his foot as if checking it. "You've already felt it, haven't you?" he said. "The way it notices." My stomach tightened. "Yes," I admitted. He nodded slowly. "Good," he said. "That means you're still thinking straight." "That's your definition of good?" I said, incredulous. "You'd be surprised," he muttered. A pause. Then I asked more quietly this time, "Who are you?" He hesitated. "Tom," he said finally. I studied him. "Why are you here, Tom?" His expression shifted slightly. Something darker. "I came back," he said. The words landed heavy. "Back?" I repeated. "I stayed in that house," he said. "Couple of months ago. Thought I could figure it out. Thought it was just someone living in the walls, like people said." My chest tightened. And I was wrong. The way he said it, flat, certain, sent a cold ripple through me. "What happened?" I asked. He looked past me briefly, toward the darker corner of the ruin. "Same as you," he said. "At first, sounds, movement, things not where you left them. And then," he met my eyes. "It started talking." My breath caught. "And you stayed?" I said. "For a bit," he admitted. "Tried to catch whoever was doing it. Thought I could corner them, find the entrance, drag them out." "And did you?" He shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "because it's not just one thing." The words echoed in my mind. "Not just one thing." "The man in the walls," I said. "That's real, right?" "Was," he said. "Maybe still is. Hard to tell. But he's not the worst part." "What is?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "It copies," he said. A chill ran through me. "What?" "It learns you," he continued. "Your voice, your habits, the way you move. Then it starts using them." My stomach dropped. The whisper, my voice. Why? I asked, barely above a whisper. He glanced toward the doorway again. Because it needs you to trust it, he said. A pause, then quieter. Or to make a mistake. The implication hung heavy in the air. What kind of mistake? I asked. But even as I said it, I already knew. Opening something, letting something in, following something you shouldn't. Like I had. I shouldn't have come here, I said. No, he agreed. You shouldn't have. Silence settled between us, thick, uncomfortable. Then I asked the question I'd been avoiding. What happened to the others? His jaw tightened again. They didn't leave, he said. The words felt like they dropped straight through me. What do you mean they didn't? They stayed too long, he cut in. Or they followed it too far. Or they listened when they shouldn't have. My chest tightened painfully. And you? I asked. Why are you back? He hesitated. Then, because it doesn't let you forget, he said, a long pause. You think you've left, he continued. You think you're safe. But it lingers in your head, in your space. Starts small, little things, then more. The room seemed to close in slightly. The coat, the chair, the whisper. You brought it with you, I said quietly. He shook his head. No, he said, that's the problem. Another pause. Then he added, it was already there. A cold, sinking feeling spread through me. So it's not just the house, I said. No, he replied. It's the place, the woods, the boundary. The boundary? He nodded toward the doorway. Inside, outside, he said. Doesn't matter as much as you think. It just needs a way in. My mind raced, trying to piece everything together. The gate, the curtain, the moment I'd leaned in, the way I'd followed the light. You said we need to leave, I said suddenly. Yes. Then why aren't we moving? He didn't answer straight away. Instead, he looked at me, really looked like he was measuring something. You already heard it in here, he said. My stomach twisted. Yes. That means it knows you're here, he said. A pause. Then, it might already be closer than you think. The air in the ruin felt colder suddenly. He stepped toward the doorway, motioning for me to follow. Come on, he said. We need to go, now. I didn't hesitate this time, because whatever this was, whatever it had become, it wasn't just waiting anymore. It was already moving. And somehow, it knew exactly where we were. We didn't run at first. That's the strange part. You'd think we would just bolt straight out of there, crash through the trees, get as far away as possible. But we didn't. Tom moved quickly, yes, but not blindly. Careful, controlled. Like he knew that sudden movement might be the wrong choice. I followed him out of the ruin, the lantern's weak glow shrinking behind us as we stepped back into the trees. Stay close, he said under his breath. Don't wander. Don't stop. I'm not planning to, I muttered. The forest swallowed the light almost immediately. Within a few steps, we were back in near total darkness, the faint outline of the path barely visible underfoot. The air felt thicker now, heavier than before, like something had shifted since we'd gone in, or maybe it had just been waiting. We moved quickly between the trees, Tom slightly ahead, me just behind him, trying to match his pace without tripping over roots or uneven ground. Every sound seemed amplified now. Our footsteps, the faint rustle of leaves, the quiet snap of twigs underfoot. Too loud, all of it too loud. Can it follow us? I whispered. Tom didn't look back. It doesn't follow like that, he said. That didn't help. What does that mean? It means it doesn't need to chase you, he replied. It just meets you where you're going. A cold knot tightened in my stomach. That's not reassuring. It's not meant to be. We kept moving, the trees thinned slightly ahead, the darkness easing just enough to suggest the edge of the forest was close. Good, good. Just get out. Back to the road. Back to something normal. I focused on that thought, clinging to it like a lifeline. Then Tom stopped, so suddenly I nearly walked straight into him. What? Stop, he said quietly. I froze. What is it? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, listening. I strained my ears. At first, I heard nothing. Then, something faint. Behind us. A sound. Soft, dragging, like something being pulled slowly across the ground. My breath caught. That's not us, I whispered. No, he said. The sound came again. Closer. Not fast. Not rushing. Just approaching. Steady. I felt my pulse spike. We need to go, I said. Tom nodded, he said, but not like this. What do you mean, not like this? He turned slightly, his expression tense. If we run, we lose the path, he said. If we lose the path, we're in deeper than we want to be. Another dragging sound. Closer now. I didn't like this, not at all. So what do we do? I asked. We keep moving, he said, but slow, controlled. Don't let it push you. That's easy for you to say. He gave me a sharp look. It feeds off panics, confusion. You let it rush you. You make mistakes. The words hit me hard. Mistakes. Like following the light, like stepping into the ruin, like everything I'd done so far. Fine, I said, forcing my voice steady. Then let's move. We started forward again, slower this time, more deliberate. The sound behind us continued, dragging, scraping, keeping pace, not gaining, not falling behind, just there. I didn't turn around, I didn't want to, because whatever I'd see, I knew it wouldn't help. The trees thinned further. I could see the faint outline of the road ahead now. Just a little further, just a few more steps. Then a voice, wait. I stopped. Before I could stop myself, the words slipped out of me automatically. What? Tom grabbed my arm instantly. Don't, my stomach dropped. The voice hadn't come from him. It had come from behind us, and it hadn't sounded like the whisper from before. It had sounded familiar, too familiar, like someone I knew. Did you hear that? I whispered. Yes, he said tightly. Ignore it. But I couldn't, because now that I'd heard it, it was clearer, closer. Wait. Same voice, same tone. I knew that voice. I just couldn't place it. Who is that? I said, my heart racing. No one, Tom said. It's not real. But it felt real. It sounded real. And then it changed, shifted. Subtle at first, then unmistakable. It became my voice. Wait. My breath caught in my throat. No, I whispered. No, that's not. Don't respond, Tom said sharply. I didn't. Not out loud, he cut in your head. The words hit me like a shock, because he was right. I had responded, not with words, but with attention, with recognition, and that was enough. The dragging sound stopped. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then, footsteps, not behind us anymore. Ahead, on the path. My stomach dropped. That's not possible, I said. Tom didn't reply, because he was already staring forward. I followed his gaze and felt something inside me collapse. There was a figure standing in the middle of the path. Not far, close enough to see, but not clearly, not fully. It looked wrong. The shape was human, roughly. But the details didn't sit properly. The proportions were off, the posture slightly tilted, and the face, I couldn't focus on it, like my eyes refused to lock onto it properly. Don't look directly at it, Tom said quietly. Too late. I already had. And for a split second, I thought I saw my own face. My stomach lurched violently. No, I said, shaking my head. No, that's not. It's copying, Tom said. Don't engage. The figure didn't move, didn't step forward, didn't step back. It just stood there, blocking the path, waiting. What do we do? I asked, my voice tight. Tom didn't answer immediately. He was thinking, fast, carefully. Then we go around, he said. Through the trees? Yes, that's a terrible idea. It's worse if we go through it. I hesitated. The trees to either side looked darker, denser, more uncertain. But the thing on the path felt worse, much worse. Fine, I said. We go around. We stepped off the path into the trees. The ground shifted underfoot again, softer, less stable. Branches brushed against my arms, catching slightly on my clothes. The darkness deepened almost immediately, swallowing what little visibility we had. I didn't look back at the path. I didn't want to see if it was still there or if it had moved. We pushed forward, angling slightly, trying to keep direction without fully losing ourselves. The silence followed us. Heavy, oppressive. Then another sound. Closer. To the side this time, a whisper. Wrong way. I clenched my jaw. Keep moving, Tom said. I am. But the doubt had already crept in. What if we were going the wrong way? What if we were moving deeper instead of out? What if... No, I muttered. No, just keep going. The trees seemed tighter now, closer together, the air heavier, harder to breathe. And then suddenly we were back on the path. I stopped dead. No, I said. No, that's not right. We hadn't turned. We hadn't circled. We'd moved in a straight line. But there it was, the same path, the same spot, and the figure, still standing there, exactly where it had been before, waiting. Tom swore under his breath. That's not supposed to happen, he said. My chest tightened. What do you mean, not supposed to happen? It's not supposed to loop like this. Well, it just did. The figure tilted its head slightly, watching, learning. Then, very slowly, it took a step forward. And that's when I realized something. This wasn't a chase. This wasn't something we could outrun. This wasn't something we could outthink. This was a trap. And we were already inside it. The trees, the path, the voices, the way everything folded back in on itself. It wasn't random. It was controlled, deliberate, constructed, and whatever had created it was now closing it in around us. Tom stepped slightly in front of me. "Stay behind me," he said. "Like that's gonna help," I muttered. But I did it anyway. The figure took another step. Closer now. Close enough that the distortion in its face became more visible, more wrong, more familiar. I felt something inside me crack slightly because I recognized it, not fully, not clearly, but enough to know this wasn't just copying randomly. It was using me, and it was getting better at it. The air around us seemed to tighten, the space shrinking, the options disappearing, and for the first time, I realized something worse than anything that had come before. We weren't trying to escape anymore. We were trying to survive something that already knew exactly how to break us. And it wasn't finished yet. We didn't run. Not because we didn't want to, but because something in both of us understood at the same time that running wouldn't change anything. The path had already folded in on itself once. The trees had already moved us without moving. Whatever this was, it didn't work like distance. It worked like proximity of something else. Attention, awareness. The moment you noticed it, you were already closer than you should be. "Don't focus on it," Tom said quietly, not taking his eyes off the figure. "That's what it wants." "That's a bit difficult," I muttered because the thing was standing directly in front of us. But I tried. I lowered my gaze slightly, not fully, just enough that I wasn't staring directly at its face. I could still see it in the edge of my vision, still track it, but not engage with it. The air felt thick, like pressure building before a storm. "On 3, Tom said. "We move past it. Not through, past. Keep your head down. You're serious?" "Yes." "This is your plan? It's the only one we've got." That didn't inspire confidence, but standing still felt worse. "Fine," I said, forcing my voice steady. Tom shifted his weight slightly. 1, he said. The figure didn't move. 2. The whisper started again, soft, layered. Multiple voices now, overlapping, out of sync. "Stay. Wait. Wrong way. Open. 3. We moved, fast but controlled, angling slightly to the side, not directly toward it, not directly away, just enough to pass. I kept my eyes down, focused on the ground, on the path, on anything that wasn't it. The whispering grew louder, closer, right beside my ears. "Look at me. I'm here. You came back." I clenched my jaw. "Don't respond. Don't react. Don't." My shoulder brushed something. Cold, not like air, not like fabric, something else. I flinched but didn't stop. We pushed forward. 1 step, 2, 3, and then we were past it. The whispering stopped instantly. The pressure lifted. The air felt normal. I turned slightly, just enough to see behind us. The path was empty. The figure was gone completely, like it had never been there at all. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "Did we?" I started. "Don't," Tom said sharply. "Don't question it. Just move." We did, faster this time. Not running, but close. The trees began to thin again. The outline of the road appeared ahead, real, solid, not shifting, not looping. We stepped out onto it almost at the same time. And just like that, the forest released us. The air felt different immediately, lighter, less aware. I turned back instinctively. The trees stood still, silent, nothing moving between them. No light, no figure, no sign of anything at all. "Okay," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "Okay, what just happened?" Tom didn't answer straight away. He was breathing hard now, his composure cracking slightly for the first time. "That wasn't supposed to happen like that," he said. "You keep saying that," I replied. "What is supposed to happen?" "It's supposed to keep its distance," he said. "Test you, push you, not." He stopped. "Not what?" I pressed. "Not trap you that quickly." A cold feeling settled in my chest. "Then why did it?" He looked at me, really looked, and something in his expression shifted. Like he just realized something. "Because of you," he said. My stomach dropped. "What?" "It's reacting to you," he continued. "Faster than it should, stronger. That's not exactly comforting." "No," he said, "it's not." We stood there for a moment, both of us trying to process what had just happened. Then I said, "We need to go back." Tom blinked. "What?" "The house," I said. "Briar House." His expression hardened immediately. "No." "Yes." "No," he repeated. "We are not going back there. There's something in that house," I said. "Something real, the walls, the passage you mentioned. If we can find it." "You don't understand," he cut in. "No, you don't understand," I snapped. "This isn't just in the woods. It followed me. It's already outside the house. So either we figure out what's going on, or we keep running until it catches up properly." Silence. Heavy. Tense. Tom looked away, Bree, jaw tight, then back at me. "You're not wrong," he said. Relief flickered, brief and fragile. "But that doesn't mean it's a good idea," he added. "It's the only idea we've got." Another pause, longer this time. Then, "Fine," he said. "But we don't stay. We go in, we check, we leave, fast. That's all I'm asking." It wasn't, but it was enough. The drive back felt shorter than it should have. Too short, like the distance between places didn't matter anymore. Like once you were part of it, everything connected differently. The lane to Briar House was exactly as I'd left it, dark, narrow, still. The cottage sat at the end of it, quiet and unchanged. No lights, no movement, nothing to suggest what had happened inside. I parked a little way off. Neither of us moved straight away. "You sure about this?" Tom asked. "No," I said honestly. "Good," he replied. "Means you're thinking." We got out. The air felt colder here, sharper. Like the place remembered, the front door was still closed, exactly as I'd left it. I stepped up to it slowly, my hand hovering near the handle. "This is a mistake," Tom muttered behind me. "Probably," I said. Then I opened the door. The house was silent. Completely. No movement, no sound, no presence. It felt empty. I stepped inside cautiously, Tom right behind me. The kitchen looked the same, the table still braced against the back door, the chairs unmoved, everything exactly where it had been. But the feeling, it was gone. That heavy, watching pressure, it wasn't there anymore. "It's quiet," I said. "Too quiet," Tom replied. We moved further in, carefully, checking each room. Nothing, no signs of disturbance, no movement, no sound. It felt like the house had been abandoned, not by people, by whatever had been inside it. "That's not right," Tom said. "What? It doesn't just leave." I frowned. "Then where is it?" He didn't answer. Instead, he moved toward the kitchen, toward the floor. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Looking for the entrance," he said. "To what?" He glanced at me. "The part you didn't see." My stomach tightened. He knelt down, running his hand along the edges of the floorboards, checking, pressing, listening. "What exactly are we looking for?" I asked. "Something wrong," he said. "Something that doesn't fit." A few seconds passed. Then he stopped. "There," he said. I stepped closer. "What is it?" He pointed. "One of the boards, slightly raised, barely noticeable, but wrong." "Help me," he said. I hesitated. Then knelt beside him. We pried at the edge carefully. The wood resisted at first, then gave. With a dull, heavy sound, the board lifted, revealing darkness beneath the fibing. A narrow opening, stone, old, cold air rising from it. My stomach dropped. "That's not good," I said. "No," Tom agreed. "It's not." He shone his torch down. The beam disappeared into the space below, revealing steps, stone steps leading down into something hidden, something sealed, something that had been beneath the house the entire time. I felt a slow, creeping dread begin to spread through me. "This is where it comes from," I said quietly. Tom didn't respond, because he was already staring into the darkness, and whatever he saw made his expression shift. Not fear, not exactly. Something worse, recognition. "It's deeper than I thought," he said. A pause. Then very quietly, "It's been here a long time." The air from below felt colder now, heavier, like it carried something with it, something old, something patient. And as I stared into the darkness, I realized something I hadn't before. This hadn't started with the house. The house had been built over it, and now we had just opened it again. We didn't go down straight away. That needs saying, because people always assume the worst decision happens instantly, that curiosity overrides everything and you just step into it. But we didn't. We both stayed there, kneeling on the kitchen floor, staring into that narrow opening like it might move if we looked away. Cold air kept rising from below, not like a breeze, more like a slow exhale, the kind that doesn't stop. "How deep?" I asked quietly. Tom didn't answer immediately. He leaned forward slightly, angling the torch down further. The light stretched across the first few steps, then disappeared into black. "Too deep for what this place should have," he said. "That's not helpful." "It's honest." I swallowed. "Someone built that," I said. "It's not natural." "No," he agreed, "but that doesn't mean it's just a cellar." The word hung there. Cellar. Too small a word for how it felt. This wasn't storage. This wasn't practical. This was hidden, deliberately. "How long do you think it's been there?" I asked. Tom shifted slightly, his expression tightening. "Long enough that no one remembers building it," he said. A silence followed, heavy, heavy. Then a sound from below, soft, barely there, but unmistakable. A scrape. My breath caught. Did you hear that? I whispered. Yes. Another scrape, closer this time, not coming up the stairs, not moving toward us, just moving, somewhere down there. I felt my body tense instinctively, every muscle locking. We should close it, I said quickly. Right now. Just put the board back in. No, Tom said. The firmness in his voice made me stop. No, I repeated. If we close it, he said, we don't know where it comes out next. The implication hit immediately. Not contained. Never contained. Then what do we do? I asked. He didn't answer straight away. Instead, he adjusted his grip on the torch. We look, he said. A cold wave of dread washed through me. That's a terrible idea. Probably, he agreed. Then why? Because it's already active, he cut in. You heard it upstairs. It followed you. It's outside the house now. If we don't understand what we're dealing with, it's just going to get worse. He wasn't wrong. That was the problem. Every option felt like the wrong one. Fine, I said quietly, but we don't go far. Agreed. That didn't make me feel better. At all. Tom swung his legs over the edge first, lowering himself onto the top step. The wood creaked slightly under his weight, then settled. He glanced back at me. Stay close, he said. I am. I followed. The air changed immediately, colder, damp, heavy with something I couldn't quite place. Not rot, not mold, something older. We moved slowly down the steps, one at a time, the torchlight flickering against the stone walls. The staircase was narrow and closed, the walls rough and uneven as if they'd been carved rather than built. How far does this go? I whispered. Tom didn't respond, because we were about to find out. The steps ended sooner than I expected, opening into a low chamber, stone floor, stone walls, bare, empty. At first glance, the torchlight swept across it slowly. Nothing, no furniture, no objects, no signs of use, just space. But the feeling, it was stronger here, thicker, like the air itself was aware of us. This doesn't make sense, I said quietly. There's nothing here. Look closer, Tom said. I frowned slightly, stepping further in. The floor was uneven, not broken, just marked. Scratches, faint, worn, as if something had been dragged across it, repeatedly, in different directions. My stomach tightened. What did that? I asked. Tom didn't answer, because he was looking at something else, the wall, opposite us. I followed his gaze. At first I didn't see it. Then, I did. Marks, not scratches, not damage. Writing carved into the stone, old, layered, overlapping. I stepped closer, the torchlight catching the shapes more clearly. Words, fragments, different hands, different times. Don't answer it, it learns. You stay away from the voice, it's in the walls first. My chest tightened. They knew, I whispered. Tom nodded slightly. I moved along the wall, the words continuing, some deeper, some barely visible anymore. Then one stood out, clearer than the rest. Newer, not fresh, but not as old. It doesn't need the door. My breath caught. I stepped back slightly. That's not, I started, but the words didn't finish because I already knew. The whisper, the attention, the moment I'd leaned in, it hadn't needed anything physical, just me. Tom, I said quietly, but he wasn't looking at the wall anymore. He was staring at the far corner of the room. Do you see that? He asked. I turned. At first, nothing. Then, movement. Subtle, at the edge of the light, like something shifting just beyond where the torch reached. My pulse spiked. That's not, I started. The movement stopped, completely. The silence that followed was suffocated. Then, a sound, not from the corner, not from the stairs, from behind us, right at the top of the steps. I turned sharply. The opening above was darker, too dark, as if the light from the kitchen had been cut off. That's not right, I whispered. Tom stepped slightly in front of me. Stay here, he said. Where are you going? Just checking. No, I said quickly. Don't split up. He hesitated, then nodded. Together, he said. We moved toward the stairs, slow, careful. The darkness above didn't move, didn't shift, just stayed, like something was blocking the light. We reached the bottom step. I felt my chest tighten. Something was wrong, very wrong. Tom, I whispered, I know. He raised the torch slightly, the beam cut upward, through the darkness, and for a split second, it caught something, a shape, standing at the top of the stairs, one that is not fully visible, not fully formed, but enough to know it was there, watching. My breath stopped completely, because the face, the shape of it, was wrong. Not fixed, not stable, shifting, changing, like it couldn't decide what it was supposed to look like. Then it settled, just for a second, and I saw it clearly, me, standing there, looking down. My voice, but not quite, spoke. You came back. I couldn't move, I couldn't think. Every part of me locked in place. Because it wasn't just copying anymore. It was improving, getting closer, more accurate, more real. Tom stepped forward suddenly, grabbing my arm. "Back," he said sharply. "What? Now?" The thing at the top of the stairs tilted its head, watching, learning. Then it moved, not stepping down, not walking, just appearing one step lower. My heart slammed in my chest. "That's not possible," I whispered. "It doesn't move like we do," Tom said. The thing shifted again, another step, closer, still not walking, just closing distance. And with each movement, its face became clearer, more defined, more like mine. The whisper returned, layered, multiple voices, all slightly off, all trying to match. "You let me in." The words hit like a physical force. I staggered slightly. "No," I said. "No, I didn't." "You saw me." Another step. "You listened. Closer. You followed." I felt my legs weaken, because it was right. Every word, every step I'd taken had brought me here, had brought it closer. Tom tightened his grip on my arm. "We go now," he said. "How?" I whispered. "It's blocking the way." "It's not blocking anything," he said. "What?" "It's trying to make you think it is." I looked at him, confusion cutting through the fear. "What do you mean?" "It doesn't need to stop us physically," he said. "It just needs you to believe you can't move past it." The thing shifted again, closer, its face now almost fully mine, but wrong, still wrong. "Stay," it said. And for a split second, I almost did. My body hesitated, my mind stalled, because it felt right, safe, like stopping would fix everything, like staying would end it. Tom yanked my arm hard. "Don't listen," he snapped. The moment broke, the illusion cracked, and suddenly I could move again. We pushed forward, up the steps, straight toward it. Every instinct screamed at me to stop, to turn back, to run the other way. But I didn't. I couldn't, because I knew if I stopped now, I wouldn't start again. The thing didn't block us, didn't grab, didn't attack. It just stood there, watching, as we passed through the space where it should have been. Cold, that's all I felt. A sudden drop in temperature, like stepping through shadow. Then, we were through. Back in the kitchen. The light hit us. Real, solid, normal. I stumbled forward, nearly falling, my breath coming in sharp, uneven bursts. Tom slammed the board back into place behind us. Hard. The sound echoed through the room. Silence followed. Heavy, absolute. We stood there, not moving, not speaking, just breathing. After a long moment, I looked at him. "That wasn't real," I said. It didn't sound like a question, but it was. Tom met my eyes. And for the first time, he didn't have an answer. Because whatever we had just seen wasn't just something in the house. It wasn't just something in the woods. It was something that had learned me. And now, it didn't need to hide anymore. For a few seconds after we slammed the board back into place, neither of us moved. It felt like the entire house had gone still. Not quiet, still, like something had paused, listening, waiting. "Did we stop it?" I asked, my voice barely steady. Tom didn't answer straight away. He was staring at the floor, at the board we just forced back into place, his chest rising and falling slower now, but still tight. "No," he said finally. The word landed heavy. "Then what did we do?" He looked up at me. "We saw it," he said. A pause. "Properly." That didn't make me feel any better. "If we saw it, why didn't it?" I started. "Because it doesn't need to rush," he cut in. There it was again, that same calm, that same awful patience, like we weren't escaping anything, just delaying it. "We need to go," I said. "Yes." Neither of us hesitated this time. We moved fast, out of the kitchen, through the narrow hall, straight to the front door. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see if anything had changed behind us. The moment the door opened, the cold air hit again, sharp, real, grounding. We stepped outside, and for a split second, everything felt normal. The lane stretched ahead, quiet and empty. The trees stood still at the edge of the garden. The rain had stopped completely, leaving the world damp and heavy but calm. Too calm. "Move," Tom said. We didn't walk. We ran, not blindly, but fast enough that the sound of our footsteps echoed off the wet ground, sharp and urgent. The lane felt longer than before, the distance stretching in a way that didn't quite make sense. I didn't look back, not once, because I knew if I saw something, I wouldn't keep running. We reached the end of the lane, turned onto the road, still running, still not stopping. "Keep going," Tom said, slightly ahead now. "I am." The road should have led back toward the village. But after a few seconds, something felt wrong. The houses weren't there. The lights weren't there. The road was empty. I slowed slightly. "Tom," I said. He didn't stop. "Not now. This isn't right." He slowed then, just enough to look around, and I saw it hit him. The same realization. This isn't the road, he said quietly. My chest tightened. It has to be. It's not. The ground beneath us was still tarmac. The shape of the road was still the same, but everything else was wrong. No houses, no lights, no sound, just darkness stretching in both directions. The air felt heavier again, familiar, too familiar. We didn't leave, I whispered. Tom didn't reply because he already knew. We need to turn around, I said quickly. No. What? If we turn, we're giving it direction, he said. That doesn't make any sense. Neither does any of this, he snapped. A silence fell between us. Then a sound. Behind us, footsteps, soft, measured, matching our pace. My heart slammed in my chest. No, I said. No, that's not. Don't stop, Tom said. I'm not. The footsteps didn't speed up, didn't slow down. They stayed exactly where they were, just behind us, close enough to hear, not close enough to see. Don't look, Tom added. Too late. I turned and saw nothing. The road behind us stretched empty, silent, but the sound, it didn't stop. It was still there, still following, still matching. I turned back quickly. That's not possible, I said. It doesn't need to be, Tom replied. The footsteps continued. Then another sound. To the side, in the trees, a branch snapping, a shift of movement. My head turned instinctively. Don't, Tom said. Don't track it. But it was already too late, because now I could hear it everywhere. Behind us, beside us, ahead. Not moving fast, not rushing, just surrounding. The road narrowed slightly, the trees closing in on either side. Too close, too tight. This isn't the same road, I said. No, Tom agreed. The air grew heavier with every step, harder to breathe, harder to think, the silence pressing in, and then we saw it. The tree, bent, split down the middle, exactly the same. I stopped dead. No, I said. No, we passed that. Tom slowed, looked at it, then back at the road. We didn't, he said. We did. We didn't. The certainty in his voice terrified me more than anything else, because it meant we weren't moving forward. We weren't moving at all. We were circling, trapped. The footsteps behind us stopped. Instantly. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then, a voice right beside me. You're still here. I flinched violently, stumbling back a step. No, I said. No, that's not. The voice was mine, exactly mine. Perfect. No distortion, no delay. Just me. Tom grabbed my arm again. Stay focused, he said sharply. I can't. You can. Another voice. From the other side. Tom's. Turn around. I froze because it sounded exactly like him, but his hand was still gripping my arm. Right there. Don't listen, he said. I'm not. You are. The voices multiplied, layered, shifting. Some mine, some his, some others, all speaking at once, all overlapping, all close, too close. Stay. Stop. You're tired. You don't need to run. My head spun. The road seemed to tilt slightly, the trees bending inward, the space shrinking. I can't, I said, my voice breaking. Tom tightened his grip. Yes, you can. How? He looked at me, really looked. Don't listen to the voices, he said. Listen to me. I am. No, he said. Not with your ears. I stared at him, confusion cutting through the panic. What? Everything it's doing is external, he said quickly. Sound, sight, movement. It's trying to overwhelm you. Another voice, right behind me. You don't need him. I flinched. It's not inside you yet, Tom continued, so stop reacting to what's outside. The words hit something, a small, fragile piece of clarity. Focus, he said. I forced myself to close my eyes, just for a second. Shut everything out. The voices didn't stop, the sounds didn't stop, but they shifted, faded slightly, lost clarity. I took a breath, then another. Good, Tom said. Now move. I opened my eyes. The road was still wrong, still empty, still looping. But something had changed. It didn't feel as close, as tight. We moved again, forward, not looking at the tree, not listening to the voices, just moving. Step, step, step. And then, suddenly, the pressure broke, the air shifted, the weight lifted, the road changed. Lights, distant, faint, but real. The village. I stopped. Tom, I said. He looked ahead, then nodded. Yeah. Relief hit me so hard my legs nearly gave out. We made it, I said. But even as I said it, something felt wrong. Because the voices, they hadn't stopped. They just moved, further away, waiting, watching. And as we stepped fully back into the edge of the village, I realized something worse than anything that had come before. We hadn't escaped. We just reached a place where it couldn't follow in the same way. But that didn't mean it wasn't still there. Because now, it didn't need the woods. It didn't need the house. It didn't even need the path. It already knew how to reach me. And sooner or later, it would try again. We didn't stop walking until we reached the center of the village. Even then, neither of us said anything. Not straight away. The lights helped. Street lamps, shop windows, the faint hum of distant life, cars passing, a door closing somewhere, a dog barking far off. Normal sounds, familiar, grounding, but it didn't feel like safety. Not really. It felt like a boundary, like we'd stepped into a place where it couldn't reach us the same way. But that didn't mean it couldn't reach us at all. You feel that? I asked quietly. Tom nodded. Yeah, it's still there. I know. I turned slightly, looking back toward the road we'd come from. Nothing, just darkness. Just the empty stretch leading back toward the lane. But the feeling, that faint, lingering pressure, it hadn't gone. It had just pulled back, watching, waiting. What now? I asked. Tom ran a hand over his face, exhaustion finally showing through. We don't go back, he said. That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters. I shook my head. No, it's not, because it's not finished. He looked at me. It's never finished, he said. The way he said it, flat, certain, made something inside me tighten. That's not good enough, I said. You said it yourself. It's getting stronger, faster. It reacted to me. I know, so we can't just walk away. We can, he said. We should. And then what? I snapped. We just wait for it to show up again? In another room? Another place? Another time when I'm alone? He didn't respond because he didn't have an answer. Silence settled between us again. Heavy, uncomfortable. Then, very faintly, a sound, not from behind us, not from the road, from within the village. A door creaking, somewhere nearby. We both turned instinctively, a small terraced house across the street. The front door was open, just slightly, a sliver of darkness visible inside. That wasn't open before, I said. Tom didn't reply because he was already staring at it. The air shifted again, subtle, but there. That's not good, he said. No, I agreed. The door creaked again, wider, this slow, deliberate. No one visible inside, no movement, just open. A cold sinking feeling settled in my chest. It's here, I said. Tom nodded. Yeah, how? He didn't answer because we both knew it didn't need to follow, it just needed a way in. And this was a new one. A new space, a new doorway, a new chance. We should leave, he said quietly, but neither of us moved, because if we left, we'd be leaving it behind with someone else. A faint sound came from inside the house, a voice, soft, barely audible. Hello? My chest tightened. That was real. That wasn't it. That was someone else, someone inside, someone unaware. Someone's in there, I said. I know. We can't just, I know. Another pause. Then we moved, together, across the street, slowly, carefully. The door was open wider now, enough to see into the hallway. Dark, still. The light from the street barely reaching inside. Hello? The voice called again. Closer this time. A woman. Uncertain. Tom stopped just short of the doorway. Don't go in, he said quietly. You just said someone's in there. I know. Then we have to. Listen to me, he said sharply. If we go in there, we're stepping into its space again. And if we don't, someone else is. The words hung between us. Heavy. Unavoidable. Another sound from inside. Footsteps. Approaching the door. Slow. Careful. Is someone there? The woman called. I didn't think. I stepped forward. Tom grabbed my arm. Don't. But it was too late, because I'd already spoken, already engaged, already responded. The air changed instantly, that same pressure, that same shift, right at the edge of the doorway. The woman appeared in the hallway, mid-30s, tired eyes, confused expression. She looked at me, then at Tom. Can I help you? She asked. Normal, completely normal. And that's what made it worse, because behind her, just for a second, I saw something move. Not her, something else. In the darkness behind her, wrong, out of place. My stomach dropped. You need to leave, I said quickly. Her expression shifted. What? Now, I said. Get out of the house. That's what are you talking about? Just please. The light behind her flickered, once, then steadied. She turned slightly, glancing over her shoulder. There's nothing. The whisper came. Right then, right there. Not faint, not distant, clear. Stay. Her voice, but not hers. She froze, mid-turn, her body stiffening slightly. What was that? She said. Tom stepped forward. Get out, he said firmly. She looked back at us, confusion turning into something else, uncertainty, fear. Is this some kind of... The lights went out, completely. The hallway dropped into darkness. The only light now, the street behind us, casting long shadows into the doorway. And in that shadow, something moved. Not fully visible, not fully formed, but there, close, too close. The woman stepped back instinctively. What the hell? The whisper came again, closer, layered. You opened it. She shook her head. No, I didn't. You answered. Her breathing quickened. What is this? Tom moved quickly, grabbing her arm. Out, he said. She resisted for a second. Then something shifted behind her. Fast, close, too close. She felt it. I saw it in her face. The moment it changed, the moment she realized this wasn't normal, she stumbled forward, out of the doorway, into the street. Tom pulled her further back, away from the house, away from the door. I stepped back too, heart pounding. The doorway remained open, dark, silent. Then slowly, very slowly, it began to close on its own. The creak loud in the quiet street until it shut completely. The sound echoed. Then nothing. Silence. The pressure lifted just like before. The woman stared at us, wide-eyed, shaking. What was that? She whispered. I didn't answer, because I didn't know how to. Tom let go of her arm slowly. You need to leave, he said. Leave what? The house, he said. Now. She looked back at it, then at us, then back again, and I saw it. That moment, that hesitation, that doubt, the same one I'd had, the same one that had kept me there longer than I should have. No, I said quickly. Don't think about it, just go. She swallowed hard, then nodded, slow, unsteady. Okay, she said, and just like that, she chose to leave. We watched her go, walking quickly down the street, not looking back, not stopping, gone, safe, for now. I turned back to the house. The door remained closed, silent, like nothing had happened, but I knew better. We both did. It's spreading, I said quietly. Tom didn't argue, because he couldn't. It doesn't need the house anymore, I continued. No, he said. It doesn't need the woods. No. I looked at him. What does it need? He hesitated. Then, you? The word landed heavy, too heavy, because I knew he was right. And as I stood there, staring at that closed door, I realized something worse than anything that had come before. This wasn't about a place anymore. It wasn't about where it lived. It was about where it could go next. And somehow, I had become part of that path. I didn't go back to the pub. I didn't go anywhere. Not really. We walked for a while, me and Tom, without direction, just putting distance between ourselves and that house, that street, that door. But after a few minutes, it became obvious something had changed again. The village felt thinner, not empty, not wrong in the same way as before, but like the space between things had stretched slightly, like everything was still there, but not quite as solid. You feel that? I asked. Tom didn't answer straight away. Then, yeah, he said. What is it? He hesitated, then gave the only answer he had left. I think it's us. That sat badly. What do you mean us? I mean, he said slowly, we've crossed whatever boundary there was, not just once. A pause. We're not outside it anymore. The words sank in deeper than I wanted them to, because I understood. The house, the woods, the road, the village. It had been separate places. It had been layers. And we'd moved through all of them. I stopped walking. So what? There's nowhere left to go, I asked. Tom turned to face me. His expression wasn't fear anymore. It was something worse. Acceptance. I don't think there ever was, he said. Silence followed, heavy, final. Then, my phone buzzed. The sound was so sudden, so sharp that I flinched instinctively. I pulled it out slowly, hands unsteady. A notification, unknown number, a message. I stared at it for a few seconds before opening it. You left the door open. My stomach dropped. No, I whispered. Tom saw my face. What is it? I turned the screen toward him. He read it. His jaw tightened. It's not your number, he said. No. Did you give it to anyone here? No. A pause. Then, another buzz, another message. I didn't want to open it. I already knew whatever it said would be worse, but I did anyway. I'm still inside. My breath caught in my throat. No, I said again. No, that's... The phone buzzed again. This time a photo. I hesitated, then opened it and felt everything inside me go cold. It was a picture of a room. My room, the one above the pub, the bed, the chair, the coat still hanging exactly where I'd left it. Except something was wrong. The angle, the perspective. The photo hadn't been taken from the doorway or the bed or anywhere a person should have been standing. It was taken from the corner, near the ceiling, looking down. My hands started shaking. That's not possible, I whispered. Tom stepped closer, staring at the screen. It's in there, he said. My chest tightened painfully. I left, I said. I left that room. You did? Then how? It doesn't need you to be there anymore. The words hit harder than anything else, because they made sense. Too much sense. Another message. Come back. I locked the screen immediately. I'm not going back, I said, too quickly, too firmly, like saying it out loud would make it true. Tom didn't argue, but he didn't agree either. Then where do we go, he asked. I didn't have an answer, because every place suddenly felt the same. Every space felt reachable. Another buzz. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't ignore it either. Slowly, I unlocked the phone. Another photo, this time closer. The same room, the same angle, but different. The chair was turned, facing the bed, and on the bed there was an indentation, like someone had just sat down, watching, waiting. I felt my breathing start to slip again, too fast, too shallow. This isn't real, I said. It's not real, it's not. The whisper came right then, right there. Not from the phone, not from behind me, not from anywhere I could point to. Just everywhere. Soft, close, familiar. You came back. I froze, because this time it didn't sound like me. It sounded like Tom. I turned, slowly, carefully. He was still standing there, still looking at me. But something was wrong. Subtle, almost impossible to place. His posture, the way he was standing. Too still, too exact. Tom? I said. He didn't answer immediately, just stared. Then his head tilted slightly, the same way the thing in the woods had. My stomach dropped. No, I whispered. No, that's not. You shouldn't have opened it, he said. My heart slammed in my chest. That wasn't right. That wasn't how he spoke. That wasn't. I stepped back instinctively. You're not. The real Tom grabbed my arm from behind. Don't engage, he said sharply. I spun around. He was there, right behind me, breathing, real. My mind struggled to catch up. Then I turned back. The other one was gone, completely, like it had never been there. I stared at the empty space, my chest rising and falling too fast, too uneven. It's getting better, I whispered. Tom didn't respond because he didn't need to. We both knew it wasn't just copying anymore. It was placing, positioning, appearing where it shouldn't be, when it shouldn't be, as whoever it needed to be. Another buzz. I didn't want to look, but I already knew it wasn't going to stop. I unlocked the phone again. Another message. Just one word this time. Stay. My grip tightened. I didn't reply. I didn't react. I just stood there, trying to think, trying to breathe, trying to understand what was left to do. There isn't a way out, is there? I said quietly. Tom hesitated. Then, no, he said. Not cruel, not harsh, just honest. A long silence followed. Then another whisper, closer, softer, more familiar than anything before. Not mine, not his. Something else, something that felt like it had always been there. You already know me. My chest tightened because part of me recognized it, not clearly, not consciously, but enough to feel it, to understand. This hadn't started in the house or the woods or the road. It had started the moment I noticed it, the moment I listened, the moment I gave it shape, and now it didn't need to find me anymore because it was already there, in the spaces I couldn't see, in the moments between sound and silence, in the part of my mind that was still trying to make sense of it. I looked down at my phone, at the last message. Then slowly, I turned it off because I understood something finally. Something simple, something final. It didn't need the screen, it didn't need the house, it didn't need the woods. It just needed me to keep noticing it, to keep listening, to keep giving it space. And as I stood there in the quiet village street, with the light steady, the air still, and nothing visibly wrong, I realized the most terrifying part of all. Everything looked normal again, exactly like it had at the beginning, and that was how it stayed. Because now, no matter where I went, no matter how far I tried to get, I would always wonder if the next voice I heard was really mine. If this story stirred something within you, be it a flicker of unease, curiosity, or deep reflection, please leave a comment and share your thoughts. What do you think is truly going on? Have you ever experienced a sense of uncanny familiarity like that before? If you have similar stories of your own, don't hesitate to share them. Who knows? Maybe we are all touching upon the same hidden frequency. And if you want to keep exploring these dramatic, mysterious, and multi-layered tales, please hit the like button to support the channel and subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming chapters. Wishing you a truly peaceful night, where everything is still in the gentlest way, and may there always be a spark of warm light somewhere waiting for you to find it.